Welcome, everybody, and thanks for joining us. We're thankful that you've decided to spend approximately 30 to 40 minutes with us as we explore best practices for leveraging technology in your entertainment company. I'm your host, Mark Severance, Director of Cloud Sales for RKL eSolutions. The session today will be recorded and posted on RKL's YouTube site so you can rewatch or share it. This webcast is designed to be interactive, but since all lines will be muted, please type any questions into the chat box and we'll answer it when there's a break in the action. And if the screen is too small, simply use the double arrows or the magnifying glass above the presentation window to right size it. And finally, don't forget that restrooms are down the hall to your right. All right, RKL eSolutions is a division of RKL LLP. And we've grown to over 100 employees from coast to coast, and we help our clients in two primary ways. The first is that we sell, implement, and support cloud software. And this includes applications including financial management and ERP, budgeting and planning, AP automation, month-end close, and expense management. And then we combine these strategic solutions, and you see some of our software partners over there on the right, with industry-specific consulting expertise. And that's the point of the webcast today, because for many years now, RKL has partnered with growing entertainment companies. And you'll get to hear more of that a bit later on. But today we're pleased to share some of what we've learned with you about how successful companies are leveraging technology to achieve three key goals. The first is to be able to provide insight into the health of all parts of the organization. Second is the ability to enable your people to do their best work, taking them out of the mundane and the repeatable processes and enabling them to be really successful, making the highest and best use of their time. And third, enabling the accounting and finance team to become a more strategic partner to executives, investors, and other key stakeholders. You see, it's important to keep in mind that technology is not the goal, it's really a means to an end. Technology is simply a facilitator to help you achieve the company's goals and accelerate your success. So if that sounds good, I hope it does, we'll talk more about that in just a few minutes. However, I first want to set the stage by taking us back to a simple game you may have played as a kid. It's a game called Would You Rather. So you may remember that. And so one of the examples might be, would you rather have 500 tarantulas crawling around your house or 1,000 crickets jumping around your room? That's two really unpleasant options, right? Well, I bring that up because in the not too distant past, technology decisions could really feel like that. The choice between two rather difficult and unpleasant options. So on the one hand, perhaps you could buy or implement an entry-level system, say something like QuickBooks, right? And there's some good things about it. It's inexpensive, it's easy to use, it's fast to implement, and a whole lot of people know it. But as the company grows, complexity grows with it. And things like entities, locations, currencies, etc., increase. As a result, spreadsheets begin to multiply, and you begin to really do more work outside the system than in it. And investors, auditors, executives may struggle to have the same confidence in the numbers given the significant challenge to pull everything together in a timely fashion. And all too soon, QuickBooks becomes like having 500 tarantulas crawling around your house. And that's really kind of gross and scary. All right, so tarantulas are scary, and that scenario seems a little less than ideal. So other companies in the past have invested in something perhaps a bit more robust, maybe something like Microsoft Great Plains or Sage Mass 90. And there are some good things about these solutions. Certainly, it's more powerful, more robust than QuickBooks. There are various features that are incrementally better than what you'd had before. And of course, bragging rights, you can tell your friends that you've got a shiny new ERP. Certainly an improvement over entry-level software. But again, there's some challenges here as well. The technology is dated, difficult to access on various devices. Reporting is probably somewhat better, but you're still forced to do a lot of reporting outside the system in Excel. Third, you're afraid to upgrade. You finally get it working, and now you never want to upgrade lest any of the integrations break. And managing multiple entities and other key processes, still far too manual and paper-based. It's almost like you've got 1,000 crickets jumping around your office. So with that as a backdrop, I've got great news today. We've got great news today. There is a better way, and it's a way that many growing entertainment companies have embraced, and you can too. So to tell you more, I'm happy to introduce my colleague, David Cieslak. David has been consulting with entertainment companies for 25 plus years. He's a CPA who loves technology and gets all giddy when you combine the two in a meaningful way. So David, take it away.
All right. Thank you, Mark. And yes, giddy I am, or giddy up, I should say. And so what are those 5 brilliant ways? And we've had the privilege and the enjoyment of working with a number of entertainment clients and helping them truly digitally transform their business. And so I'm going to step through those 5 ways. And I think what you'll find is that there's absolutely going to be opportunities for you as well. So that first brilliant way, go straight to the cloud. And in fact, today what we're finding is most organizations are not only embracing a cloud first, they are truly taking a cloud only approach. And that has a number of very distinct and notable benefits. And so we want to simplify IT, and that's going to enable users to focus on what they do best. The reality is in most organizations, IT is not a value-added proposition for the organization. And while you may have an IT team of 1 or a number of individuals, they're constantly challenged and struggling to stay up to date, not only with supporting end users' devices, but also making certain that from a server side in the back room, that the technology is always up to date and the organization is fully protected. And at some point, that is just not adding a lot of value to the organization, and it's creating risk within the organization as they try to stay in front of all the IT challenges presented in the marketplace today. One of the second things that we're going to be able to do by taking the organization straight to the cloud is we'll be able to work anywhere, any device, anytime. We have that any capability in being able to access our solution. And that's a game changer within the organization. And that provides quick and easy access to data for key stakeholders and end users alike. And so it really is going to just change the paradigm, change the way that we go about accessing the solution and doing what we do. Another thing that's going to do too is going to allow us to stay up to date, always have the latest and greatest. And instead of feeling like you're stuck maybe in an older version and unable to access some of the great new functionality that maybe the publisher, the provider has added in more recent updates, we've, for one reason or another, been kind of marooned or stuck behind. Maybe it's because integrations potentially stop working, or there's incompatibilities with other products. Maybe it's just expensive, and the last 1 or 2 times we've gone through that process, it has really been kind of wrenching for the organization. Well, the good news is in cloud-based applications today, those upgrades are provided automatically in real time to the end users, and they are part of the subscription. So we call that a frictionless upgrade process, and you won't ever be stuck behind on an old version as a result of these cloud first, these cloud only applications. And the other thing it's going to do too is it's going to give us the ability to scale. Scale as the organization grows, as your needs evolve, you're going to have an application in turn that will evolve and grow with you. And you don't need to worry about adding more servers and more CPUs and, really, kind of with it all falling on the shoulders of the organization to support that scale. Instead, it's automatically going to be supported by end-tier solutions, essentially solutions out in the cloud that are going to understand your requirements and transparently and automatically help support that growth within the organization. So that's kind of great idea, brilliant idea number 1. And I thought it would be helpful to go ahead and share an actual use case with you. Legendary Entertainment is one of the companies we had an opportunity to work with for a number of years now. And they were challenged in very similar ways to what I just described. They had an on-premise solution. older versions of product. They were stuck with essentially dated applications that they were supporting on in-house servers, and really found themselves just at a crossroads. How do they support the growth ahead, what they were looking forward to in terms of the future of the organization? And they similarly had a chart of accounts that wasn't flexible, and it wasn't going to support their reporting requirements. And they had manual processes galore. And that really just was hamstringing the organization, making it complex and difficult to do reporting, consolidations. Just many of the day-to-day tasks turn into real chores and not just something that they were able to easily and efficiently navigate through. So after the, kind of the digital transformation that we worked with them to undergo, we simplified the chart of accounts. Most of what they needed to do from a reporting perspective, we could capture inside of something called dimensions, which was ultimately going to give them ability to understand what was going on, maybe by title or film, genre, distribution channel, any one of a number of different data elements, dimensions, that in turn we could do some slice and dice style reporting, give them the visibility that they needed. The legendary team members were able to take advantage of that new operating kind of paradigm, that anywhere, any device, anytime. Best-in-class integration with other company critical applications. We'll talk about that more in just a moment, but all part of this digital transformation process, and ultimately able to support the growth of the organization, the very dynamic, the very amazing growth that Legendary has experienced over the years. So kind of what's brilliant idea number two? Brilliant idea number two is visibility, giving us deep, rich data insights in terms of what's going on in the organization and giving it to us in real time so we have an opportunity to respond, react, and really pivot what we do each and every day so we're responsive to the changing needs of the organization. So as we think through that, what's behind that? So many organizations today, I like to call this a hostage crisis, but they're so dependent upon Excel in order to gain any insight, understanding of what's going on. And for so many organizations, it has become just a mainstay of the business. And in fact, it really is kind of what's one element, one component of what's holding them back. And plus, there's latency in that process. There's potentially two versions of the truth or data accuracy issues in that process. And as we look at Excel and say, if that is a primary reporting tool, that is how we gain visibility into what's going on, that alone, is going to significantly challenge the organization. And so it has to be a report writing strategy, an approach that will give us not only information in real time, but the finance team needs to be able to own that. That can't be something that we have to have a heavy reliance on, one key individual inside the organization, or maybe even more challenging, have to rely on outside organizations to give us that deep insight. So it has to be a tool that the in-house team can own, and that has to be easy to work with, easy to understand, easy to update, modify, and continue to move forward with. And it, as I kind of already shared, has to be able to leverage those data elements, those data dimensions to give us insight into the various aspects of the business that really are key to what we do. And so whether it's by title, by channel, think about those things that really kind of are the indicators, the key indicators of success in the organization. We need to make sure that the report writer is going to be able to surface that information, make that visible in real time, to all stakeholders. And then ultimately, too, we want to incorporate not just financial information, but non-financial information as well. So it could be, head count, square footage, number of screens. It could be any one of a number of metrics that'll help give context to that financial information. That also needs to be something that we can incorporate into the reporting, such that ultimately we have, deep, rich, insightful information in terms of what's going on. And it also should be able to support multiple methods of accounting. And so whether or not your organization needs to do cash basis books, in addition to your accrual basis books, but also support for maybe tax basis, GAAP, or other non-traditional books for reporting purposes, and being able to include that those perspectives in real time as well. And do our report writing tools give us the ability to do that in real time, such that we have immediate insight in terms of what's going on. So I think one of the best ways to picture always is worth 1,000 words. We think it's worth probably a whole heck of a lot more than that. But here's a simple dashboard that we helped create for one of our clients. And it pulls together a number of nice metrics into a single screen. So something called performance cards. Think of these as KPIs, key performance indicators, giving us a quick heartbeat, a quick sense of the health of what's going on within the organization, or maybe across specific projects. And that would include both that financial information, and as you look to the right, it incorporates non-financial or statistical data as well. So maybe hours expended within a project, giving us a sense of what is the effort that's been exerted, giving us context to those debits and credits, those financial dollars. And if we're looking at this screen, wouldn't it be great if we could actually filter the information that we're looking at here, both in an aggregate view, but also enabling us to drill down maybe to a specific title for different date ranges, or one producer versus another. So think of this as actually doing in-place analytics right from a dashboard view of the organization. And again, as I said repeatedly, this is all now in real time, a real-time heartbeat in terms of what's going on within the organization. And finally, the ability to even say, you know what, surface that information that's going to require my interaction, things like approving timesheets or approving other transactions that are traveling throughout the system. We're going to want and need that capability. So again, just a good sample dashboard giving us a sense for that. But I'm going to take us right back to the example I shared just a moment ago. And as we think about Legendary Entertainment, they had these very challenges, these very specific items came up day over day for them as well. And so they thought about Sage Intacct and say, how can Sage Intacct be leveraged within the organization to help us address and resolve some of these very challenges? And so when we talked about dimensionalizing, we've already mentioned maybe title or film, but how about episodic, webisodic, customer-based information? How about series? And think about season 1, season 2, episode 1, episode 2. Can Intacct help us kind of break it down and give us that fully kind of deep, rich understanding of what's going on? And the short answer is absolutely yes. And so all of this is key to driving that great insight, that great visibility within the organization. And then all of this, by the way, these dimensions, the Intacct starts out with a number of, included, we'll say, standard default dimensions, but it's a scalable solution. So as you, within your mind's eye, say, you know what, there's additional data attributes we want to capture and use to drive reporting. Can Intacct support that? The answer is absolutely yes. And so as the business grows, as your desire for deeper, richer, more diverse insight grows, Intacct supports that with essentially unlimited dimensional capabilities for just unlimited scalability. All right, so the third brilliant idea: stop manual repeatable processes. There just is no value add for those repeatable manual processes in the organization. And so many organizations today spend an inordinate amount of time on really just tactical items, things that are just data entry oriented, and really do nothing to help us strategically address those things that will make the business better. And so what are some of those things? Well, one of the first things I would suggest is ask the question, is there a better way? And almost always there is a better way. And so if you find yourself kind of, traveling throughout the hallways and saying, here are the areas where we seem to be spending a lot of time, and I just have this deep, innate sense that there's got to be a better way. The answer almost always is yes, there is, but it's not going to be found continuing to stay behind, maybe on the platform, the solution, and using the same practices we've used in the past. Just because those practices have gotten us to where we are, doesn't mean that those are the practices we should be doing going forward. And so I always say that a hint, by the way, is to look for spreadsheets or paper. Look for those things where it's just very time consuming, and maybe think to start there. And that will give us the ability to empower our employees to really be more strategic, to do their best work, to be not just data entry individuals, but really say, help us add insight and value into the business as a part of what they bring to the office each and every day. Some perfect examples for that, integrate maybe processes that we're doing with other best-in-class solutions, and using something called APIs, application programming interfaces. And so as we think about those processes that we do, do we in fact connect our core solutions and have them talk to each other, or how much time is spent just rekeying data between solution A and solution B? We'll talk about something that's not very value add. So much value can be derived by automating and integrating solutions alongside each other, so we have one version of the truth that travels from all of our key applications in real time through these automated programming interfaces. So very key consideration that the organizations are going to want to understand, and questions they're going to want to ask. And so an example I'll use is something like AP automation, and think about really the approval process in and around an AP bill, the workflow, in and around maybe any one of these documents. And so I'll bring up a slide here that talks about, and this is a product we work with and Legendary selected as well, called Avid Exchange. And so you think about AP automation today, and actually before we kind of drill down on AP automation, think about your own personal bill payment. And yeah, I'm going to talk to you about what you do at home. And when you think about paying bills each month at home, do you say, you know what, I pull out the checkbook each month, I sit down with paper bills in front of me, I handwrite checks, I stuff them in envelopes, I stamp them, and I drop them in the mail? And thankfully we have the lines muted, so if anyone was going to say, absolutely, that's how I do it. But the reality is, I think for the great majority of folks, they would say, no, that's not the way we do it. I go on to maybe my banking website. I set up my bills for auto pay. I even have the ability to capture maybe my water bill, my power bill. Those automatically get uploaded, right to my email, or I see those. My banking website is aware of those as well. And so I do e-payments. Well, why are we not doing that today within our organizations? So AP automation is a perfect example of one of those items that's probably well overdue. And the good news is we have a great way to automate all of that. So from the original receipt of the invoice to coding, routing for approval, ultimately pulling that all into our ERP solution, and then in turn generating e-payments on the backside of that. Perfect example of something today that can be automated and deliver powerful and immediate ROI to the organization, and something that is, in my mind, is very much one of the first places we may want to consider starting in this digital transformation process. All right, how about the fourth brilliant idea? And I've kind of hinted around it here a little bit, but let's dig in on it just a bit more. And that's the whole notion of best in class. Because the reality is, as we think about any solution we put in place, can it be everything to everyone? Is there such a thing as a single solution that is going to be able to go end to end and do everything that we need? And I'll just go ahead and answer the question this way: no. No one application is going to be everything for everyone. And regardless of whether or not a publisher says, oh, we're an end-to-end solution and we do all of these things, there's still going to be something more that they're going, that we're going to need to have join the picture, and it's going to need to be a part of the end-to-end, the organizational-wide solution. So, now as we think about products in the marketplace today, we need to understand what they do well, where they're best positioned, and then think about that integration as an opportunity to then interconnect all of these best-in-class applications. But let's not fall for the notion that one application is going to be all things to all people, and because what we've observed in the marketplace is they will all they all have some type of limits to their capability, and we will need to integrate and rely on other applications as well. So we always recommend starting with your core financial application, because that becomes the final resting place for all of your debits and credits, and it needs to support all of your specific requirements, and whether that's multi-entity management, the dimensional reporting that we talked about, the multi-book that we talked about, it needs to support those things that are going to be critical, not just nice to have, but critical for the growth and success of the organization going forward. And then build out that portfolio of solutions as you continue to think about business process over time. So one of the ways we recommend is think about each and every big business process, which processes are challenging, identify maybe those that are most challenging first, like the AP automation solution I just shared, or it could be budget and planning, it could be month-end close, it could be expense reporting by the employees. Think about each business process and say, this month, this quarter, we're going to tackle that, we're going to address that. And by the way, it needs to fully integrate to be part of this end-to-end, best-in-class, ultimate solution that we put in place for the organization. Now, from a RKL perspective, we've already identified who we think some of the very best in the marketplace are today. So with Sage Intacct at the center of the solution, along with things like AvidXchange for AP automation, and that's the example I already gave, but when we think about month-end close, a product like Flowcast or HR payroll with Workforce Go or ADP, Nexonia, Concur, Expensify for expense management, and finally Adaptive Insights. Each one of these we consider to be some of the very best, but I call them out as very specific examples because each one of them integrates with Sage Intacct. And so again, not two versions of the truth. Instead, we have seamless flow of data supporting very efficient operations. And so all of that time spent doing low value work, we're able to eliminate from our day-to-day work process and enjoy real-time solutions with real-time data integrations for efficient, effective, real-time visibility in terms of what's going on in the organization. So that brings us to brilliant idea number 5, or at least we think it's pretty brilliant. And we would say, partner with us, partner with RKL. And as a partner with your organization, we do in fact have direct working knowledge day to day with these best-in-class solutions, and we've seen them in place in our client environments. So we have a fond sense for what's going to work well and what's the best way to configure those to get the most out of each solution. But we're not just talking about a technology understanding. We also have best-in-class, we'll say, industry experience as well. So we know the entertainment industry. We've worked in the entertainment industry for more than 25 years. We understand the evolving needs within entertainment. We speak your language, and so it's going to be very specific, very tailored to the needs of entertainment. And so we do, in fact, have a network of those clients, and we're happy to share, in addition to Legendary, we're happy to share some of those success stories with you. And so you have the confidence that you can talk to other users, maybe who are similar to you, who've undergone a similar process of digital transformation from a legacy system to something that's cloud first and truly going to help you work more strategically throughout your day, give you visibility in terms of what you need to run the business, and pulling that all together in a truly future-oriented solution. So that's it. Those are the 5 brilliant ways. Go straight to the cloud, improve visibility, stop the manual process, embrace that best in class, understand what that means, and work to build a great end-to-end solution of these best in class components, and hopefully leveraging a relationship with RKL, it'll help expedite and streamline your digital transformation process. So with that, Mark, do we have any questions that have come up during our time together today?
Yeah, thanks very much, David, for the presentation. A couple of questions. The first is, our company could benefit from a number of these ideas, but how do I know what to do first?
Well, I would tell you the first thing I think is let's go ahead and make that connection, Mark. It would be great for us to partner with that organization. But really the process as we typically step through it is we try to understand what their current challenges are, how that's impacting their business, and we brainstorm and we say, what do ideal solutions look like? And that will help us set priorities, identify those areas that could benefit from automation and this cloud first strategy that we've been talking about. And it will help us kind of really create a roadmap for success that'll help transition them going forward.
Excellent, thank you. And then the number 2 question is, I'm on QuickBooks today. How long does it take to migrate from QuickBooks to a solution like Sage Intacct?
Oh goodness, that is probably one of the most common questions we get, Mark, so thank you for that. QuickBooks is undoubtedly one of the most popular products in the entry space, and so many organizations we talk to today, that is the world they're operating in. It's the solution that they know, and so the process of transitioning from QuickBooks to Intacct is a road we've traveled many times. And so again, understanding QuickBooks, being able to step through the process, but what we've experienced in terms of timing around that is probably anywhere from 60 to 120 days, so 2 to 4 months. But and not that it technically takes 2 to 4 months, but what we've learned through so many of these transitions is this is going to be our opportunity to kind of reimagine some of what we do and how we do it. So think about data dimensions. Well, inside of QuickBooks, there's something called class. Well, that's one example of a dimension. Intacct gives us an unlimited number of dimensions. So let's go ahead and have that dimensional discussion. What dimensions would an organization want to have in place that's going to support that great reporting and visibility that we spoke about earlier? So we're going to do a little bit of that cleanup, and we're going to do a little bit of that reimagining of the business. And so that interaction, just that exercise, takes a bit of time. But again, 2 to 4 months is pretty standard. It's very rare to go longer than that. But that it's pretty typical. So that should give an organization a sense of what time and maybe even kind of what kind of resources it's going to take in order to do that transition.
Outstanding. David, thank you again very much. There are no further questions at this time. So I'd like to wrap up the webcast saying thanks for all who attended. And please, as the slide says, let us know how we can help. We'd love to have a conversation, love to be able to partner with you and help you achieve digital transformation in your organization. Thanks very much. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.